From the broadcast center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, my name is Kyle Collis, and I'm here with your news updates to 12 p.m. The head of a social service agency headquartered in Vancouver's Chinatown is praising the introduction of British Columbia's new data collection legislation aimed at dismantling racism. Queenie Chu, head of Success, the social service agency in Vancouver, says the Anti-Racism Data Act provides a new way to understand and fight racism, which is believed to have increased in targeting Asians during the pandemic. British Columbia Premier John Horgan says the legislation will allow for the use of data that shows barriers so that more impartial policies can be created to better meet the needs of Indigenous, Black, and other groups who face discrimination. The government also says that more than 90% of racialized people who participated in a community-led survey said that collecting data about ethnicity, gender identity, and faith could create change as well as build trust with the government. However, on that note, Chinatown has noticed an uptick in crime, which can be a cause for concern for businesses in the area. With more on that is reporter Evan Smith.
The historic neighborhood has long been affected by crime, but business owners have said it's worse than ever. Multiple instances have occurred recently to back this up. An attempt was made to steal a dragon street lamp in Chinatown, as well as the vandalizing of two lion statues outside the Chinese Cultural Center. The office manager at Major Tom Accounting talked about how they stay safe.
We've seen most of the crime happen in the evening, in the nighttime, like when we're closed, because we've got cameras, right? So we would cameras and alarm systems, so we would hear and see when things would happen.
The increase in crime has led to a poor perception of the area, but businesses implore customers to continue to visit. Evan Smith, 1680, The Crow.
Now we are joined by Evan Smith to learn more about this. Evan, what do people believe can be done to improve the area?
The police already have an increased presence within the area, but people believe that they could be utilized in more efficient ways.
And have police made any progress in those vandalism cases?
Police have ongoing investigations for both crimes, but as of now, no one has been taken into custody.
All right, well, thank you for that, Evan. Now, the BC federal governments are again boosting funding for farmers markets that have been operating in the province since before November 2020 or those that did so last summer. Nearly $140,000 is available to eligible farmers markets that did not already receive funding, with applicants eligible for up to $15,000 that could be used for everything from signage and merchandising, racks to tents and tables. Agriculture Minister Lana Popham says an initial round of funding provided $475,000 to 57 markets in various communities. Her ministry says the reimbursement-based program is being delivered in collaboration with the BC Association of Farmers Markets. The BC Securities Commission has ordered a man to pay an administrative penalty of $500,000 and banned him from various market activities for illegally distributing securities. The commission says Winter Hyung, also known as Dong Hyung, along with two Richmond-based companies, is also banned from trading in or buying any securities or derivatives. It says Hyung was president and director of Pegasus, which is a high-tech biopharmaceutical company, according to its promotional material, and also director of another firm called Kerasang, which has also been dissolved since. The commission says that between 2010 and 2012, Pegasus distributed over 1,400 bonds totaling about $450 million to investors in Taiwan, while Kerasang guaranteed repayment of the principal of 447 bonds totaling about $12.8. The Ontario 2022 election campaign is set to begin tomorrow, although parties have been unofficially campaigning for weeks. Election Ontario is encouraging their residents to get out and vote early to lessen crowds at polling stations due to the pandemic still looming. Election Day is set to be on June 2nd. An update on the flooding in Manitoba: the water has risen again slightly in the flooded Peguis First Nation. Another 200 or so residents have left the community, bringing the total to more than 1,100. Chief Glenn Hudson says the residents staying in the area are getting tired.
It is a lot of work to try and fight against Mother Nature, the floodwaters, and roads are starting to be breached, so it is making it more difficult to get location to locations.
The swollen Fisher River has covered roads and entered some homes in the community. A new document shows that Gabriel Wortman, the gunman who killed 22 people in rural Nova Scotia, had been on the radar of police for up to a decade before the tragedy in April 2020. The report put forward today says Gabriel Wortman was the subject of police investigations on at least 2 or maybe even 3 occasions. The first occurred in June 2010 when RCMP were contacted by his uncle about death threats Wortman allegedly made to his parents. The second threat was against police and prompted a warning from the Truro Police Department nearly a year later. The third incident involves a report about illegal weapons filed to police in July 2013 by an old neighbor of Wortman in Portapique. In the U.S., political leaders are weighing the impact of a leaked U.S. Supreme Court document that suggests it could be prepared to overturn the critical Roe v. Wade case in 1973 that legalized abortion in the nation. Jackie Quinn from the Associated Press has more on that.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer say if this leaked report published by Politico is accurate, the Supreme Court is poised to inflict what they call the greatest restriction of rights in the past 50 years. The view is echoed by civil rights attorney Noreen Farrell.
Disproportionate impact, of course, on poor women without the economic needs to travel across state lines to obtain abortion.
New York's governor tweeted anyone seeking abortions could head to her state, but opponents are ready, demonstrating outside the U.S. Supreme Court. Recent AP polling finds 69% of voters want abortion to remain legal. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Now in the UK, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has told Ukraine's parliament that their country has achieved the greatest feat of arms in the 21st century by repelling Russia's attempt to capture Kyiv. Johnson also credits the bravery of Ukraine.
And though your soldiers were always outnumbered, 3-1 it is now, they fought with the courage and the energy of lions. And you've beaten them back from Kyiv. You have exploded the myth of Putin's invincibility.
Johnson also announced a new $480 million package of military aid to Ukraine. This includes radar, drones, and armored vehicles. Staying with Ukraine, a top Red Cross official says dozens of Ukrainian civilians have been evacuated from a steel plant in Mariupol. Pascal Hunt is the head of Ukrainian delegation for the International Committee of the Red Cross. He says a total of 127 people arrived at the government-controlled city on buses today. However, it is also reported the evacuation effort did not include Ukrainian soldiers.
I understand that the agreement was solely for civilians, and there were no other population that were part of the agreement.
Hunt says he is extremely concerned about new clashes between Ukrainian and Russian forces at the steel plant, with other civilians still being inside. Now for weather, it's currently 11 degrees and all clouds, with chances of rain later today and probably for the rest of the week. Those are your news and weather updates to 12 p.m. In a few minutes, we'll have Angelina Mintz with sports. Once again, my name is Kyle Collis, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
This is sports on 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon. I'm Angelina Mintz with your sports update for 12:10. The Abbotsford Canucks kick off their postseason tonight in Bakersfield, California. The Canucks, who finished 5th in the Western Conference, will take on the 4-seeded Condors, who are the AHL affiliate team of the Edmonton Oilers. Abbotsford looks to pick up their first postseason win since relocating from Utica. Puck drop is set for 7 p.m. in Bakersfield. Another Canadian NHL team is in action tonight as the Calgary Flames kick off their series at home against the Dallas Stars. Flames head coach Daryl Sutter says he is excited about the energy fans will bring for the team.
We haven't had it for a number of years. You watched the games last night. 2 Canadian cities was awesome. It was start to finish was rocking, right? So we get it here. I've said it before. It's the best part of being a playoff team in Canada is for your fans and for your players.
Puck drop is at 7 p.m. in Calgary. The Colorado Avalanche are also set to play tonight as they host the Nashville Predators. The Predators, however, will be without their all-star goaltender UC Saros for the first 2 games of the series as he is sidelined with a leg injury. The Avalanche, on the other hand, will see the return of their captain Gabriel Landeskog tonight. Landeskog has been sidelined since March 14th after undergoing knee surgery. In other matches, the New York Rangers are set to host the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight, and the Washington Capitals are in Florida to take on the Panthers. Maple Leafs forward Kyle Clifford will have a disciplinary hearing with the NHL this afternoon following a hit in yesterday's game. Clifford was given a major for boarding and a game misconduct only 7 minutes into the first period. The Maple Leafs did kill off the penalty and managed to get the victory in Game 1 over the Lightning. Game 2 goes tomorrow night in Toronto. Montreal Canadiens legend Guy Lafleur was remembered today at a national funeral in Montreal. Former teammate Chris Nolan spoke to reporters after the ceremony.
We lost, obviously, a great friend and, one of the pillars of this organization. And, it's good to see all my former teammates and former players who played alongside Guy coming here to support his family and certainly recognize what a great friend and person he was.
Lafleur died last month at age 70 after losing his battle with lung cancer. The Vancouver Giants are looking ahead to the next round of the WHL playoffs after making WHL history in their last series. The Giants capped the top-seeded Everett Silvertips in 6 games through round 1. This is the first time an 8th-seed team has beat a top-seeded team in round 1 of the WHL playoffs. The Giants will face the Kamloops Blazers in round 2 starting on Friday. The Whitecaps, too, are one of the best teams in the new MLS Next Pro, and soon their talents could shine at a higher level. Our reporter David Nava has the story.
After the Whitecaps tour program got shut down in 2017, academy players didn't have a pathway to MLS or other professional league. The scarce opportunities became even less during the pandemic. But now, for their comeback in the new MLS Next Pro, the Caps hired some of the best talent in the country. That's the case of Christian Campagna, a Zurich-born defender who has been invited to train with the Canadian national men team during the last World Cup qualifiers.
It's great to have that back. For a couple of years, there was never that pathway between the U19s and the first team. It was always just a huge step between that. And now to have WC2 and have real meaningful games and play in the league, it's great. It's a great opportunity.
Whitecaps 2 are currently in the 4th spot of the Western Conference and 5th overall with 12 points. David Nava, 1680 The Crow.
The Blue Jays look to bounce back in the second match of a 3-game series tonight against the New York Yankees. The Jays are set to start ace Alek Manoah, who has won all 4 of his starts this season. He will be facing off against Yankees pitcher Jameson Taillon, who has a 1-1 record on the season. The Yankees come into this matchup winning 10 straight games, including the 3-2 victory over the Blue Jays last night. The NBA playoffs continue tonight in Boston and Memphis. The Boston Celtics look to even their series with the Milwaukee Bucks after dropping Game 1 at home. And in Memphis, the Grizzlies are also looking to bounce back after dropping Game 1 to the Golden State Warriors. The CFL draft is set to happen tonight in Toronto. The Montreal Alouettes have acquired the first overall pick in this year's draft from the Edmonton Eskimos. Edmonton has received the 4th pick from the Montreal in return. The BC Lions are set to pick 3rd overall. The draft is set to happen at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And that was your sports update for 12:10. I'm Angelina Mintz, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikka-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikka-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Good afternoon, I'm Asta Pandikanan, your host today for the Record on 1680 The Crow. This week started with Eid al-Fitr, a celebration marking the end of the holy month of Ramadan for Muslims, a time for spiritual reflection and growth, to help those in need, and to spend time with loved ones. In light of this holy celebration, I have with us our guest today, Shahir Muhammad, the Muslim Students Association chaplain at the University of British Columbia. Shahir has participated in community building and youth empowerment through his role with the Canadian Muslim Chaplaincy Organization. He has organized numerous community events, established mentorship programs, and shared Islamic knowledge for over 10 years. Shahir, thank you so much for joining me today. Eid Mubarak. Can you start off by telling us what you did for the Eid al-Fitr morning prayers and how it was different from last year?
Well, thank you so much for having me, and Eid Mubarak to all of the listeners. It's great being here. First things first, I started off with coffee. That is always great in Ramadan. Obviously with our meal timings being shifted, it's nice to start off with that morning coffee. But celebration-wise, we actually had a phenomenal gathering over at BC Place. And the reports that I heard so far were that there were about 7,000 people there. And it was just amazing because I saw people who I haven't seen for between maybe 2 years up to 10 years. So lots of greetings, lots of hugs. Obviously, now that things are settling down COVID-wise, we're able to do that. And we were able to see people's faces. That was huge. With the face covering requirements being lifted as well, just being able to see those smiles. Took my kids over to the Bouncy Castle and then off to the Costco to get some last minute Eid gifts for family friends, that we had later that evening. So that was fantastic. Met a dozen more friends there, grabbing ice cream from the food court. Had a few Costco samples myself, lunch, and, called it a day.
That sounds absolutely exciting. So before we start off with all the questions I have for you, why is it that Muslims fast? We know about the no food and no water, but what are the other technicalities behind it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's what most people hear the most. So Ramadan itself is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. It's a special month because we're talking about Muslims around the world, over 1 billion participating in this fasting period, which is no food, no drink from dawn to sunset. So we're looking at about 4:30 a.m. to about 8:30 p.m. Now you'd imagine that this is going to be great for someone's weight loss, or maybe if you wanted to start a detox program, your body would be loving it at this time. But really the primary purpose is to renew our connection with Allah, God, to really live a life where we can have a heightened awareness and be mindful of our actions in light of that connection with God. So the idea is that if we can hold off on food and water, which is permissible really at any other time outside of fasting, and if we can do this out of love and faith in God, then certainly we can find ourselves having the capability to restrain ourselves from immoral or wrongful actions. So an example could be someone maybe has a bad habit of lying or stealing. But if we can exhibit enough self-restraint to withhold nourishment, something that's good, something that our body needs, then really we should be able to restrain ourselves from evil or immorality or false actions. So it's not just about food or water that's fasting, but really it's about our whole souls and our entire being.
Wow, that sounds absolutely beautiful. A lot of us have also heard about the nighttime Taraweeh prayers that Muslims observe, during Ramadan. Could you talk about the significance of the prayer and how that was done with COVID restrictions in the past and how it may have loosened now?
Yeah, and that's a great question. With the Muslim schedule shifts really to a nocturnal one for the most part in Ramadan, and Taraweeh is really like the core community event that happens every single night in Ramadan. So this is a congregational prayer, and they're voluntary, they're extra ones that we perform towards the evening. Now, the month of Ramadan is where Muslims believe that the Quran was originally, the Holy Quran, our Islamic scripture, was originally revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And Tarawih is a phenomenal opportunity to hear the recitation, to stand in prayer, to have that kind of solitude and that closeness with God, being able to express your feelings, make prayers. And so it's a very spiritual and very uplifting event that takes place at many mosques, many centers. Now, the challenge was last year because of COVID-19. There were a lot of provincial health orders in place that limited our capability to pray. So, for example, I would say, I think this time last year, we were still required to hold prayers outdoors. So there were no indoor gatherings at that time. We required pre-registration, and having a COVID-19 safety plan. Masks were required, physical distancing was required, and there were also capacity limits as well. So of course that, we did our best to make do of the situation, but naturally this was quite different from that communal type of feeling that we get from Tarawih. This year, with I would say almost all of those restrictions being lifted, we're proud that we were able to still maintain these Tarawih prayers in a safe manner. But we really felt that connection this time more than ever. I think our numbers exceeded past numbers. And in fact, I heard that, for example, one of the Eid prayers, it was so packed that they had to last minute add a third congregational prayer last minute just because of how many people showed up.
Oh, wow, that sounds lovely. For those of you who are just joining us on For the Record on 1680 The Crow, we're currently speaking with Shahir Mohammed, the Muslim Students Association chaplain at University of British Columbia, and I'm your host, Asta Pandi. Shahir, the numbers exceeding is just something that makes my heart so full because, it's nice to have people come together. But you said that BC Stadium was also completely packed this morning. How do people, not just you, but how did all of the people feel after coming back in person for Ramadan and Eid this year? Can you describe it a little bit for me?
Yeah, so Eid, it's going to be hard to describe. I'll do my best. It's something you really had to be there to experience. But Eid is something, we almost look at it as a graduation period. Imagine you have put so much effort into something like, for example, getting a university degree or putting 5 years into high school. And now here's your moment to celebrate the new you, your new future. That's what Ramadan is actually really about, because we're trying to rejuvenate ourselves and trying to become better versions of ourselves due to this connection that we have with God. Now, Eid is our moment to celebrate that. So this is about ourselves, it's about family, it's about friends, it's about community. We're talking about people from various ethnicities, all different kind of backgrounds, young people, older people, just all different kinds of walks of life, all coming together now to celebrate this. So it's this huge anticipation, and we were able to get this phenomenal venue this year, BC Place, and again, this is holding like 7,000 people. It was just so exhilarating to be there.
Wow.
There were activities for the kids, for adults, goodie bags, and it's just people were in their traditional outfits, and it was just greetings all around. It was just phenomenal.
Wow, and was it open to anyone and everyone, or was it specifically open just for Muslims?
Oh yeah, no, totally. Eid is an opportunity for anyone to come in, listen in, see what's going on. I did come across, in fact, even in Ramadan and at Tarawih, I did come across a few people belonging to different faiths, coming in, listening to the Quran and wanting to learn more. So yeah, and then even locally, I heard. So we're in BC Place, but I heard some folks came all the way out from White Rock just to attend this particular venue.
Wow, and remind me what time it started at?
Okay, so this was at, doors kind of opened at around 8:30, 9-ish, and we held the prayer at 9:30, and then there were activities going on throughout the afternoon.
Oh, wow. Can you speak to those activities, what those activities included?
Yeah, so actually a lot of it's amazing because a lot of them are kind of volunteer driven. So what I mean by that are just folks out of the kindness of their heart, families themselves are preparing goodie bags for people to enjoy, tea, coffee. I would say every single breakfast place in downtown was probably packed and not expecting such a big rush, because that's what we like to do, because now we can eat in the daytime, so might as well have fun with it. Again, I mentioned that there were bouncy castles for the kids. I heard there was going to be some face painting. So loads and loads of things for people to do, and the weather ended up getting quite nice as well. So a lot of people, despite it being a Monday, this is a significant holiday for us. So a lot of people do end up taking the time off of work, and they just dedicate this time just to celebrate. So morning time, afternoon prayers, lunch, kind of brunches, getting together, and evening time, usually there's dinners and more get-togethers. So it's a jam-packed day for most.
Wow, mashallah, that sounds amazing. I just wanted to circulate back to last year when there were capacity limits. So compared to this year, I just want to know what kind of preparations did you have to do, and how did it differ from this year, because it was so different?
Yeah, so last year was quite extensive, and a lot of it was pending approvals from the city, and obviously having COVID-19 safety plans in effect. And this was quite extensive, and it caused a lot of uncertainty. Number one, there was the limitation on what venues were available, what locations were there. So particularly at University of British Columbia, where I prayed at last year, we had to work with universities and administration to secure an outdoor gazebo. We had to develop a COVID-19 safety plan that was approved by the province. We needed to have some sort of system for people to register. We needed more volunteers to check the vaccination statuses of everyone, providing masks and hand sanitizer and various PPE. So there were a lot more logistics involved, causing a lot of uncertainty. And then, of course, the capacity limit. So again, having an event of 7,000 people this time last year was unthinkable, nor was it the safe thing to do. But it also had an impact on people's ability to celebrate. What most people ended up doing was going outdoors towards different parks and having picnics. But even then, things were limited to, I believe at this time it was just within the same household, or maybe like a gathering of up to 10. But really, when it comes to Eid, we're talking about gatherings with our friends, our family, our extended family. So it's quite easy for these gatherings to be, up towards 30, 40 people. So it's really great to have that back. And it means a lot to people. Many people are actually quite, can get quite distant. Some of them have family back home, abroad, and not situated in Vancouver. So not being able to celebrate Eid with others can take a toll on many people. Having those restrictions lifted up really served as an opportunity for people to connect again. And I think we certainly saw that with the amount of turnout that we did.
Wow, that sounds absolutely lovely. I know I'm excited about next year's event too. I'm sure it's going to be even larger, right? What do you anticipate for next year?
I certainly it's nice to have that routine of BC Place, or in the past as well, the Vancouver Convention Center was something that was really exciting, amazing views that would come out of there as well. So really, we're hoping that things remain similar to how they are right now, or if not better, and we can start to put the pandemic behind us. I'm hoping that everyone can stay safe out there as well. But certainly, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and we're really grateful for what we've been able to have, throughout the pandemic, but really what we've had this year, and hopefully we'll see something similar, if not better, next year.
100%. Shahir, that is the end of the list of questions that I had for you today, and I can't thank you enough for joining us on such an important day on our show For the Record. I'm Asta Pandi Kanan, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Corey Douglas, Squamish Nation member with Haida and Tsimshian ancestry. We wear a number of different names associated with this position. I'm active in the architectural and building industry, providing cultural knowledge to the professionals in the industry for culturally sensitive integrated design, and have periodically dabbled in art commissions, whether it be graphic pieces, jewelry, painting, whatever.
What does it mean for you being part of these kind of roles on these kind of projects, especially bringing the importance to the Squamish Nation and to all these indigenous cultures?
For me, it's a sense of pride. I spent most of my young adult life, I'm 47 years old now, but the first 30 years of my life I didn't know anything about my culture, and had been employed in an industry that has helped shape our traditional territory. Realizing that there is greater potential when it comes to culturally integrated design into the building type, programming, landscaping, whatever is being developed as part of the project, and realizing and daylighting some of these potentials.
You said that for a big part of your life you weren't too familiar with your culture, you didn't embrace it. I would just want to know, why is that?
What had pulled me or strayed me away from understanding or realizing the cultural importance of my... It all stems from the residential school system. So my father's a residential school survivor, as is his mother. His mother was the first of our immediate family that walked through the residential school doors. She was the last of my immediate family to speak the Squamish language fluently. She was the last to live in a longhouse. She was the last to travel traditionally by canoe along these shores here. That's one generation separating me from that way of living. That disconnect happened the moment my grandmother walked through those doors.
I would love to hear if these kind of projects, when you were young, will have helped you to embrace your culture, to be inspired about your culture and all.
What you're seeing here is a higher level of cultural recognition in design. These are leading subjects and projects for youth members from our community to realize how influential we can be in major projects. I always joke around about the Trump Tower that's downtown. I know the name has been stripped off of it. Well, fucking give it back to Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. That could be an iconic building that could clearly represent part of the commitment that the industry has, the city has, to reconciling with host nations. That could be a starting beacon for how our culture is being represented downtown. But you're right. I mean, there are going to be greater levels of acknowledgement. Not to take away that I realize we live in this multicultural society. We still need to celebrate it. But I think the host nations, the Coast Salish people, need to be appropriately represented as priority and first.
I'm just a little bit curious. Would you mind giving me an example about how your work or anybody else who could be in a position like you would affect the architecture of, say, a building, art installation, landscape, something?
Yeah, this is kind of what I'm talking about now. I have 3 screens up. So one is kind of listing all of my project list. Far right screen is a graphic installation, and then my laptop screen is showing a building that I had designed for, and we finally came up with what you're seeing here and presented it back to the university, and they absolutely fucking loved it. Now, realizing what that potential is, this is the level of commitment that I think would capture the attention of anyone who's wanting to commit to reconciling with the host nations. And that host nations doesn't necessarily mean here in Vancouver. It could be a project in Heiltsuk territory, Haisla territory, Haida Gwaii in the Haida Nation territory. If if industry leaders can realize that this could be of influence in committing, again, that level of engagement and participation in reconciling with a First Nations community, this is what we can do.
Well, now I think, to grab around, I think I would love to hear just about any project. It doesn't have to be architectural, it could be jewelry, it could be a tattoo, it could be, I don't know, that you want to talk about.
I did some work for a small organization that was previously known as the Squamish Nation Snowboard Team. It's a small organization that has grown exponentially over the years. I was commissioned to do a rebranding for them. And you'll see it on the wall over here. The center medallion is a silhouette of a young person skateboarding, and that was a feel-good moment. Giving back to the communities, the First Nations communities, and also establishing a long-standing relationship with them, and looking at having them partner up with industry leaders from the building industry to help sponsor maybe. You know, we just did a live auction where artists like myself, I pulled together a number of other artists from the community to donate a skateboard design that they were going to do an auction, silent auction, and yeah, it was a feel-good moment.
Is there anything we should have asked or anything that you want to add?
So my position as a cultural planner is going to have to be, these shoes are going to have to be filled going forward. I'm not going to be here doing this for the next 30 years, but we're building a program that's going to support the growth of this industry. Having youth members from Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh to participate in this program and to become educated by leaders like myself, so that there's a position for them in this industry to be employed.
Ruby Rocks is a plus-size model who has been working professionally in the modeling industry for over 7 years. Her original Instagram account of over 500,000 followers was removed from the social media platform for allegedly violating guidelines. Ruby has been fighting for months to get her account back with no success, yet accounts for thinner models are allowed to continue posting the same type of content she was. What message is Instagram sending to its users about body imagery, and what society biases are they acting on by removing accounts of plus-size models? Hi! How are you? Go ahead.
He's very excited.
Excited.
Good. Cash, stay down. Oh, don't jump.
Hi, buddy.
It's okay. Don't jump. Hi, buddy. Good boy. Oh my gosh. I love your voice.
So Ruby Rocks is my alter ego. My real name is Jen. But when I first started modeling, which was like 15, almost 16 years ago, it was something that like I really wanted to do, and I wasn't really going to let anything or anyone stop me from doing it, but I thought it would just be safer to have an alias, in a sense, you know.
Ruby does most of her work as a freelance artist and says 90% of her bookings come through her social media accounts, which is also the place she has built a large community.
So it played a huge part in what I've done. It's how people find me, it's how people get to know me, it's a way that I can show off my portfolio and also like connect with a community of people. They can get to know me, I can get to know them. It had a huge role in everything, really. But I do really like to use it to not only talk about like fashion and pretty things, but also things that are really important to me. So things like body positivity and self-love and compassion, mental health awareness, things like that. I started with my Facebook page, and that grew to like over 2 million followers. My Instagram, I started it pretty quickly after Facebook, pretty much as soon as Instagram came out, I started an account. That grew to 500,000 followers until it was deleted.
Ruby has sent appeals to Instagram every day since her account was deleted 3 months ago, but has never received a response. While she does have a new active account, Ruby has noticed an increasing number of other accounts being deleted for the same so-called guideline violations.
I am a rule follower by nature. Like, I don't have any issues with like rules and regulations. I understand why they need to be in place, especially with like public formats like Instagram and social media. Like, I get it, but it needs to be equal throughout all users, not cherry picking who it applies to and who it doesn't. Kendall Jenner, one of the genders, posted a full nude photo on their Instagram last week. Chelsea Handler was in Whistler. She was skiing topless for her birthday, smoking a joint and like with a glass of whiskey, no problem. So it's like, well, then how come they get to do that? But my photos where I'm covered, where I'm wearing lingerie or like a bikini or something like that, those photos are taken down for like sexual exploitation. That's the part that really gets me. Anybody who's not an A-list celebrity with millions and millions of followers or has the perfect body type, quote unquote perfect, there's no such thing as a perfect body type. You're not that exact type, you're gone. Why can they do it but I can't? That's the issue that I have, is the double standard of it all. And it's also teaching children sexuality or anything like that is bad and wrong. We need to be teaching the opposite of that, that like sexuality is normal and it's human and it's just part of life.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Hello there, I'm Samantha Hollomay, and these are your news updates till 1 o'clock. Let's get into the news. A new SkyTrain line of microbreweries and new skyrises, Vancouver's Fairview area, is one that is slated for new developments. But many residents are wary of the change. The development has raised concerns for neighboring residents to see a transit fuel displacement problem. The Vancouver Housing Board has been ensuring people that may be displaced by the construction or rent hikes that it won't be a problem. A Vancouver teen has been charged in a series of random attacks throughout Vancouver. According to the VPD, a 15-year-old was arrested last night in relation to an attack on 3 people walking in the Olympic Village. Later that night, a 57-year-old man had been reported to be attacked as well. Police say that the incidents were just 2 of several that took place in the weekend. Once the 15-year-old was located, he was charged with 4 counts of assault and released. BC is expanding its natural disaster alert system to cover more forms of technology in order for people to keep informed. Reporter Riley Sarrazin has the story.
Local governments are now able to send emergency alerts of flooding to their communities through the BC Alert Ready system, with wildfire alerts available by early June. Previously, the system was only able to be used for tsunami alerts, civil emergencies, and amber alerts. The provincial government can override alert decisions made on a local level and can send alerts out on a province-wide scale. These changes come as part of a more than $2 billion budget to better protect communities from future climate disasters. A province-wide test of the emergency alert system will be run on Wednesday at 1:55 p.m. Riley Sarrazin, 1680 The Crow.
Premier Doug Ford has decided to dissolve Ontario's legislature today, kickstarting an election campaign. Ford is set to meet with the Governor-General Elizabeth Dowdeswell to officially start the provincial election period. Politicians have been quietly campaigning for weeks, but the polls suggest that progressive conservatives are poised at re-election. The vote is set for June 2nd.
Job number 1 is to defeat Doug Ford. Defeat Doug Ford and then start to fix the things that are broken, that have been broken for a long time. And so that's why our plan does exactly that.
The Supreme Court had voted to overturn abortion rights, according to a leaked draft decision from Politico. The repealing of Roe v. Wade could send abortion rights back to when they were decided back in 1973. This draft by the Supreme Court Justice, they have until June to make their final decision. Many pro-life activists have been celebrating the move as pro-choice activists took to the streets of Washington, D.C. last night to protest the potential ruling. It put through an abortion will remain legal in liberal states. More than a dozen states have laws protecting abortion rights.
In a statement, the Supreme Court confirmed the draft opinion dated February 10th and written by Justice Alito is authentic, but the court said it is not a decision of the court and not final. That it leaked, Chief Justice Roberts called a singular and egregious breach of trust, but he said in a statement it would not undermine the court's operations. Roberts defended the court's employees and law clerks who he said are intensely loyal to the institution and who have an exemplary tradition of respecting confidentiality.
Now we will transition into the world of sports. The funeral for Guy Lafleur, will be held today in Montreal. Streamed by Global News, the Hockey Hall of Famer was a native of Thurso, Quebec. He played for the Habs, but also graced the ice for the New York Rangers and the Quebec Nordiques. Still into the world of sports here, still on the topic, a sports store in the Seymour Street of Vancouver is permanently shutting their doors after 32 years of business. The shops are claiming that the street's homeless problem is forcing one of Vancouver's longest running businesses to close shop. John Shevechka said there's nothing worse than what he's had to see every day. He's calling on Vancouver City Council to be more aware of the problem and pay attention to businesses owners that are going through similar situations. A quick weather update. It is currently 12 degrees in Vancouver with partly sunny skies. Those have been your updates from 1 o'clock. I'm Samantha Holloway with 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.